for this calendar year. We have a fair bit to get through, so we will start with the karakia. Kia hora te marano, kia whakapapa pōna mo te moana, he huarahi mā tātou I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai tātou I a tātou katoa.
Kia ora.
Kia ora. Right, so we will start with apologies. I believe we have apologies from Councillor Larson, is that right?
Correct.
Any further apologies?
None noted.
None noted. Okay. Right. So we will. I'll move that we accept the apologies of Councillor Larson. Can I have a seconder for that?
Awesome.
Right. You're going to need to. Morris. Morris. Thank you. All those in favour of accepting those apologies?
Aye.
Great.
Can you hear me?
You. And that's carried. Okay, so I'm just gonna I'm on the browser version of WebEx, and so I'm not seeing everyone on screen. So if you could please use your voices as well as your hands so that I can see hear what's going on as well as see. Thank you. So I'm having to sort of flip between different screens to see what's going on. Okay. So the agenda, we have the agenda in front of us. So are there any changes to the agenda that anyone would like to make at this point? No? Okay. So Tracy, would you like us to move that we accept the agenda as is?
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I have a mover for accepting the agenda?
I can do that.
Councillor Wilson-Collins, thank you. And a seconder?
I will.
Councillor Wilson-Collins, sorry, Councillor De La Varas Woodcock, seconding that. Sorry, Jim, I'll come to you later.
It was Morris.
Sorry, Morris. All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
All right.
Carried. Okay, that's the agenda confirmed. So we will go on to conflicts of interest declaration. Are there any to be declared up front? Otherwise, you can declare them as we reach an item on the agenda. No? Okay, we will move on to the minutes of, and this is on page 2 of the agenda, the open minutes from the 6th of September meeting, which was also held online. So can I have a mover, please, on that, and then a seconder?
I can move that.
Councillor Wilson-Collins moving, and a seconder, Mayor Smith. Thank you. Okay, any comments as to the accuracy of the minutes? No, okay. So we'll move straight to the resolution, which is to accept the minutes. All those in favour?
Aye.
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 Against? Carried. Okay, moving on now, straight on to the operations update, and that is being presented by Donna. So can we have a mover and a seconder to get that onto the table, and then we'll move on to the presentation. I'm happy to move that we put it on the table. Can I have a seconder?
Seconder.
Thank you, Councillor De La Varas Woodcock, seconding. Right, so Donna, over to you to present your report, please.
Okay, so first of all, I'll start with an introduction because a lot of you people may not know me. Donna Powell, I'm the infrastructure operations team leader, and I'm temporarily filling the gap for Mike Collins, who has recently left us to work up at the lakes for a 6-month period. With regards to the report, I'm assuming everyone's read the report.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can take that as read.
Yeah, so dumb question, and I meant to have presentation here for you guys.
No, not at all. Not at all. You can move, if there's nothing you want to add to your report, we can move straight into questions.
Yeah, so probably what I can add to the report it's not new by any means, but it's just with regard to the water supply issue that has taken place. There's been a lot of work done on that. Tomorrow there's a what's actually happened is I've separated the tanks now. So we have one tank for reticulated water and we have one tank for feeding the toilets that's coming directly from the bore. So the water will be safe to drink from the one that will be feeding the cafe and the water fountains. This isn't finalised until tomorrow. The water tank is coming in tomorrow to clean out that tank and to place treated water in it, and it will be topped up as required. But then on the downside of that, with the new COVID restrictions, the water fountains will be turned off.
Okay, so I just have a question on that. So does that mean the cafe will still have their water supply, or?
Yes,
Right.
The cafe will still have a supply.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. If you have a question, if you could let me know, that'd be great.
I have a question about the risk matrix. So I can see number 20, and does it go from 1 to 20?
Yes, it depends on the risk. That's a calculation that's based on the likelihood and the consequence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you go to the right hand side of that, at the moment, because we had the water fountains cut off, the risk status actually dropped. It'll drop even more now once we reanalyze that risk. For the next meeting, you'll see that would have dropped significantly.
And so, Donna, the fourth risk, the threat that individual groups undertake activities that are not aligned with the master plan. The master plan is it beginning to be under review? Does anybody know?
I can answer that. No, it's in year 2 of the LTP the review will start.
Okay, so what I'm questioning is already we've had a history of individual groups organizing activities without full consultation or knowledge of the officers, such as, I don't know, skateboard jams where alcohol was served, or and no traffic control. How are we reining that sort of unofficial and disorganized, risky activity?
So that's why we've got the project team formed, and we work with all the individual groups as well as the whole collective park. So that has actually been addressed really well, and all of the organisations within the park actually are working with us. If they are running an event, we help them navigate their traffic management plan, any regulatory issues that they may need to address as well. So. And particularly with the bowl jam for this year, they've worked really, really closely with us to ensure that they've got everything in place, along with the museum with their market day, any of the events that are happening. So I feel quite confident that's working well.
Also on that note, the community action framework, where that was a solution to the problem or to the phenomenon of this park having many different stakeholders, the friends and the museum and the daring and all sorts of things going on. Is that community action framework? I don't know if that's the right
community
phrase.
Impact. Sorry, you're talking about the collective impact approach. Yes, that's the way that we're working from the project team, is through
Yeah.
through that approach.
The collective impact approach.
Approach.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's going well.
Yes. Very well.
I think you'll see with the next report there will be some drops in them risk scores. Some of these risk scores were based on some minor issues that had taken place with storage areas not being fenced off adequately, and there was some activity that happened within some trees where some trees were felled without knowledge of council staff. So with what Jenny's already alluded to, we should be more informed in the future and able to manage that.
So this is another question I have through the chair. Is that all right?
Yes,
Councillor
yes.
Kuna?
Yeah, and then we'll move on to someone else after you.
Thank you. My final question is, being aware of various activities at the Mangawhai wastewater treatment plant, such as a new, anyway, I was just wondering about the implications of that in the park. Has there been any shift or any events such as odor or construction noise or anything that's showing a kind of a conflict of uses between the recreation and the waste management, waste infrastructure delivery?
Nothing that I've heard of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and I believe Mayor Smith has his hand up.
Kia ora. Thank you, Madam Chair. My simple question is also about the water and this high risk related issue, and it is about what I'm going to call the traffic light system, and it is about the fact that at this point in time it is not certain when or even if those restrictions will be lifted which have closed the water fountain for Maz. So my question is entirely an operational question here, which is what are the comms to the community around the fact that the water fountain is closed for the summer, because it will be closed for the summer. Due to COVID related issues. That's the first question. There's a second part of my question coming in a moment. So is there comms going out around that so no one's surprised?
Yes.
So through the chair, yes, absolutely. We only just put those protocols out on Friday. So Gillian is working on all the comms and she should have something into the Mangawhai Focus, but also the Facebook page, the website and all that sort of thing. So yes, there's definitely comms going out.
Okay, thank you. Because I think there's only one physical Mangawhai Focus left before Christmas. So it's very, very, very important, almost that it's like on the front page of the paper, that all the kids know that there's no, and the parents know that there's no drinking fountain there. That's the first thing. Thank you. The second thing is, while that is happening and there is no one using the water, is there anything that's going to be done around fixing what was the risk in any case here regarding the quality of the water and the DHB kind of related issues that we'd already identified here on the subject?
So at this point, Hamish Watson from the Waters team is working with this project. Pretty much the setup he's got now by actually getting in and physically changing the pipework there so that the bore is separated from the water that will be the treated water supply that will be brought in. So the bore supply can no longer be used for the water fountains or the cafe supply. What they are doing, they are monitoring that supply. Both supplies will be monitored, and they do monitor they're using an accredited water supplier to top up the other tank that is supplying the cafe and the water fountains. So I do believe there is still ideas floating around whether they need to put a treatment like a small UV filter or upgrade that treatment that is currently in place. But that's going to depend largely on usage, I guess, future usage, and can't really give you much more clearer of an answer, but they are monitoring that supply. The water that is going into that second tank is definitely treated water coming from an accredited supplier.
And through the chair, if I can just add as well, with the cafe, that's been checked on a regular basis in accordance with their license. So it's monitored, and they have filters, UV filters, and everything in accordance with the DHB's requirements.
Okay, all good. So we'll move on to a question from Morris.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Donna, I'm not quite familiar with the scoring on your third column, risk status. Familiar with the other two, which are pretty standard. Some of those numbers are quite high, even after mitigation. Would you care to just give us a quick summary of the risk status on 1 to 20 and how we should feel with the risk status at 10 or 12 or 6? I mean, I assume, well, just a quick overview would be good. Thanks, Donna.
So the final risk status there of a 6 is actually reasonably low risk, falls in that low to medium risk category. Once you start creeping up into the red, obviously it gets higher. As we've already discussed, we have got quite a few mitigations in place now with what Jenny was saying, that you should see a significant reduction in them risks at the next governance meeting.
Yes, but the risk on item 2 is still a 12 after the mitigation. Should we feel concerned about that, or how do we go dropping that particular risk from 12 down to 6 into the low category? Is that possible or not? What?
So I think that particular risk is around the groups that, for example, they went in, they felled some trees that council never knew about. Apparently they fell across tracks. People could obviously have accidents in there. And with what Jenny has referred to with regards to more comms and more communication with these teams, I think that yes, we can reduce that risk by actually knowing what's going to be taking place.
Okay.
Could I maybe jump in just with a follow-on question from that while we're talking about it? Would there be a need to, or a room to actually define what tasks were okay for groups to do and what were not? So, I mean, to my mind, tree felling, yeah, should we be permitting anybody to fell trees in the park? Yeah.
Through the chair, that particular incident was not any of the organisations within the park. That was individual people within the community that had gone and they wanted to kind of make more of a bike track through there. So definitely, if there's anything like that that happens from the organisations that are, have licences in the park, they do work with council, and usually we are the ones that bring in our contractors. So from that incident that happened, and once we were alerted, Mike Collins and some of the members of the Friends group walked to the park, located where the incident had happened, and were able to clear that away. So yeah, that was really good communication on the Friends group, on the organisation's part, to alert us, and the community to alert us as to what had happened over a weekend.
Would it be helpful to, and this might be something for next year, is to do some more comms around how the park is run, and who's responsible for what, just to illustrate to the community that it's kind of there is a management structure here, and if they want stuff done, this is how they can ask for it to be done, rather than just feeling like they need to go and do it themselves.
Yeah,
Sounds like a
definitely.
great idea. Yeah.
Okay, Morris, any further questions?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Don.
Cool. And now, are there the mayor has his hand up again? Yeah. Oh, but Mayor Smith, I'll go to Councillor Wilson Collins because she's had her hand up for a while. I've just seen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a follow-on question about the water supply, the treated water. How is that being funded?
At this point, it's being funded by parks budgets. So we may need to, in the future, look at charging a small fee to the users, such as the cafe.
Okay, and just to follow on. So is that solution, is that what we're looking at as a permanent solution, or is this just an intermediary solution while we look at other options?
At this point, it's a permanent solution.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any further questions, Councillor Wilson Collins? Okay, we'll go back to Mayor Smith then.
Kia ora, thank you, Madam Chair. The question I've got is in the same hazard space regarding the trees being cut down. What is the situation about the council being the PCBU, the park, the person conducting business or undertaking, whatever it's called, and the ultimate responsibility of the council in the space? Is there advice on this? I mean, in theory, no one should be doing anything at all. That would be my understanding, because council would be the PCBU. Could we have some clarity on that, please?
So
Yes.
yep, you go, Donna.
Okay. No, you go for it, darling.
So through the chair, yes, absolutely. It's just trying to manage all these people that go rogue.
Yeah.
Basically it. But yes, you're right. It is our liability, and we try to do everything we can to minimise that risk.
Does that answer your question, Mayor Smith? Yep. Jim Wintel.
Just want to point out that the trackies, they clear the tracks, and they could be considered cutting a tree when they're trimming the lines of the tracks. I think there's got to be a definition there where one's cutting a tree, which is a big tree. One is cutting a little bit of scrub to make the track workable. And the trackies do that probably without council approval as well, but they're very responsible, and they're only trimming. It's almost pruning rather than cutting trees there. But there's got to be a little bit of a give and take on what they do there.
Yep, absolutely. We could put some comms around that and talk to the groups.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the biggest thing with all of this is just communication, and we need to know about it. And if the trackies are just going in there and pruning and clearing the track, then obviously they have their own health and safety management that they have to utilise, and we need to be part of that.
Yeah, I think the key thing is clarity around the roles and responsibilities, so that if the trackies are doing something, it is known as part of the work that they do, and therefore the risk has been transferred to the trackies as the PCBU in charge of that activity. But yeah, so I think that there's definitely more work to be done in that space around tidying up those role definitions and comms to make the community, help the community understand that it is a space where there are legal responsibilities in play, and people need to follow the right procedures if they want stuff done. Councillor Wilson, Delavaris Woodcock, sorry.
Yes, it seems to me that the council is the PCBU eventually. We are probably not indemnified against any accidents by any groups because we own the park. And so I'm alarmed by the casualness of tone that I'm hearing about from these activities, there's no casualness involved. So it's a liability issue and it's a reputational issue for council. So I think I'm going to speak bluntly, but it's a long-term issue of the park being considered to be open to the interests of all groups to put their mark on it, to claim their territory, to have a prerogative to do their activities, all in the guise of good community service and goodwill. But that is actually not democratic. That is that's flawed, and council has it's when there's too much power given to too many vested interests in this park that is not conducive to the long-term vision and management of it. So I'm seeing myself here listening to this, and I will remind this committee that there's certain things like the phoenix palms, which are officially a weed and cause harm and put 140 people in hospital every year. And, you know, I have said about 5 or 6 or 7 times, you know, is there a plan to replace each one of them step by step in the winter during the planting time with pohutakawa, so that there's shade for people to go to the park. And these are not complex actions. And I think that it's obviously something I'm looking forward to is LTP year 2 for the master plan. But in advance of that, I don't think our comms should be too, what's the word, soft and accommodating on interest groups. This is a park managed and owned by the council, and that's where the responsibility lies. So please, can we be firm on that?
Yes. Can I just say through the chair that you're absolutely right, Councillor De La Varas-Ward, but there is a lot of work that has actually gone in to really minimise that risk. It has gotten a lot better than it used to be. And yes, we do take it very seriously, but that's why Donna was saying we work with the groups to look at their health and safety and to ensure that they are complying with the rules of the park as well. Also taking in mind, like what Jim was saying, that sometimes, you know, we do need to work with them on the actual pruning and the things like that, but we are taking it very seriously and we're putting all these health and safety plans in place. Not sure about the Phoenix Palms, but that's as far as the liability.
Okay, so here's a question, Darlene and Donna. If one of the groups was to, in the operation of a chainsaw, was the operator to slip and chop their leg off, who is responsible?
Okay,
That would,
go Donna.
in my eyes, I see that we're a joint PCBU. We're the main PCBU. The group has their PCBU as well, their function, and the group, as part of their health and safety, should be ensuring that their operators have the relevant qualifications. And it's also our responsibility, if there's enough comms around it, we should know as well what their health and safety plan is and whether they're actually qualified to do the job.
And I think this is where it comes back to clarity around roles and responsibilities, and you know, the correct documentation around when a project is initiated and it goes through the right process, and this governance committee approves that project to go and approves the right group to take responsibility for that. And if we've already done the work with that group to establish that they have their health and safety practices in place, then there's clarity there. But yeah, I think there is definitely more work that can be done in that space and needs to be done. So we'll move on.
Madam Chair, you just said that the governance committee gives approval to a group. I can't remember when this governance committee has given approval to groups.
The 3x3 basketball court would be a classic example. So I'm going to move on now to
community group. That's a contractor.
With the responsibility of Maz is the lead in the project. Councillor De La Varas, I'm going to move on to someone else now. So Jim Wintel, I'm going to move to you.
So I'm just a bit concerned of how they're talking. The the trackies in particular, very responsible group, and they have got people that have got a license to use a chainsaw. They don't use chainsaws very often, more likely to be a handsaw. They take their job very seriously. And one other thing I would like to point out is if we had our community, all the governing body and the friends got together like we're supposed to do, and have a discussion group, just a friendly discussion of what's going on, then that will alleviate a lot more of these sorts of questions. We're supposed to have these community days of the council and the parks people. We're not having them. They're all slipping under the radar. One can blame COVID, but you can stand out in the field and have a discussion, and they can still take place. They were needed.
Okay, thank you, Jim. I mean, we do have council officers and usually myself attending the Friends group meetings, so that does help.
Yes.
Yeah, and we are going to be moving next year into the master plan review, which will involve a lot of consultation with the community. So I'm going to move on to Morris now. You have a question, Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry to prolong this discussion, but it's a pretty normal practice in the construction industry and allied industries to swap health and safety plans. So each of these groups should be presenting a health and safety plan to council. Council should reciprocate with its health and safety requirements, and that should be a matter of record. And that's a prerequisite for defence against prosecution. So I'm not sure if that's been done, but I would have thought that was pretty elementary. So, for example, the track people should draft up a quick health and safety plan and give it to council. And council should likewise give their requirements in terms of safety on the tracks. I mean, that's absolutely just sort of basic within the industry at the moment. So perhaps it's something that could be done. If it's not being done, I'm sorry.
Can I pass that to Jenny? Perhaps you might know, or Donna, either.
Yep. I can answer in terms of the trackies that they're very, very good at communicating, and in Mike's role, they've been working really closely on any work that they do with Mike, and obviously that he's seconded now, so there'll be a new person in that role from today that will be working alongside them. Also, in terms of what Jim Wintel was saying before too, we have a lot of on-site meetings with individual groups, maybe not the whole park, but definitely if there's anything going on, then either myself or Mike will go out, and now Donna, and meet the groups and work through whatever issues, health and safety issues, or anything they need.
Jenny, sorry, there needs to be something written down, Jenny. Even if it's pretty basic stuff, there needs to be something in writing. Like, for example, it could be as elementary as nobody goes out, this could be a health and safety plan from the walkers, and nobody goes out and with a chainsaw without another person accompanying, certain distance away, stuff like that. It's all got to be written down.
Donna,
meetings are part of it as well, but it's got to be written down.
Donna, can you just, because that is what happens, isn't it, Donna?
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm not sure what the status of all the health and safety plans are for all the various groups.
Right.
I'm assuming that there are some, but I'll have to go through the files and potentially discuss with you, Jenny, what you know.
Yeah, we can check that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we will definitely follow that up. The new person coming on board today that's taking over Mike's role will also work with the groups, any groups that haven't got them, to actually get them in place.
Okay, so I'm going to round this conversation up off that we are aware that there is work to be done in this space, and it would be helpful if at the next meeting there could be an update on the work that has been done in this space around health and safety, and in particular the written documentation around who is responsible for what on each project, so that it is clear where the risk lies and it is clear that the work is being done to mitigate those risks. So not just where it lies, but that there are plenty of steps in place to mitigate those risks. Okay, another question from Councillor Delavarus Woodcock.
Yes, can I please have it formally noted in the minutes of this meeting that any further activities to do with grounds maintenance follows the health and safety at work manual and policy with the hazards register, and that I formally absolve myself of any liability for that not proceeding. So there needs to be, if any work is done on site, just like on a farm, you have an induction, the hazards are pointed out, and they are signed by anybody undertaking any activity. If this is not being done, then we are all at risk from liability as governance. I see it. I'm not sure of the legal fine points, but I would like to make it noted that I have requested that as a member of this committee.
Councillor Delavarus Woodcock, I think that's exactly what we have asked as a committee, and so it will be done for the next meeting. We will get a report on all the work that's been done in that space, that we acknowledge that there is work to be done and that we have asked for that work to be done in preparation for the next meeting.
And through the chair, it's not, I can't put something down that's not a decision. So
No,
the staff will note that and it will come back through as part of the process next meeting.
And another question from, another question from Jim Wintel now. Another question from Jim Wintel now.
Chair, it's not a question, it's a fact.
Okay, so are we moving into comments now? I'm just going to check, Jim, that there's no more questions coming up, because I feel like we're moving into statements.
I have a question. Madam Chair, would you be happy to second a motion that the Health and Safety at Work Act requirements are fulfilled for any future activities on the grounds of Mangawhai Community Park?
I'm not going to second that, because it is a legal requirement anyway. It is inherent in everything we do that it is required. So there's sort of no need for us to have a resolution around that, because it is incumbent on us anyway to do that.
But we have heard today anecdotal evidence of trees being chopped down without the council's knowledge. So it's,
yes, if I take you back, Councillor Delavarus Woodcock, those trees were chopped down not by anybody who operates in the park normally. Those were random people who made their own decision to come in and do that. So we have and we've already asked for action in that space around the communication so that people understand better. But at the end of the day, we cannot prevent people going in the middle of the night and doing stuff that we don't authorize. So there is always going to be a risk. We're not going to be able to prevent that. What we can do is make sure that people understand who's authorized to operate in the park and and make sure that the health and safety practices and agreements between us and those groups are sound. And both of those things have been asked for as actions.
So you need a list of people, and that actually should be formally noted, so that that's an action from this committee meeting. Otherwise, it could go on, and you have to be risk averse in this situation, Madam Chair. I'm trying to point that out.
Yes, we are being risk averse, and the only people authorised to do work in the park are those who have either a licence to occupy or a licence to develop, and those who have had a project approved through the process, through the which goes through the Friends group and then to the governance group. If those things haven't happened, then they're not authorised to be doing work in the park. And those are established processes.
Well, I've made my thoughts clear, so it will be noted in the minutes of this meeting. I'll leave it up to the other members to, Morris, I think you're trying to say the same thing as me in a different way. Okay,
so we're going to move on to statements.
Madam Chair, there's, it sort of overlaps here.
Yeah.
All the friends of the are required to do their own health and safety. Now, the dairying group, the historic village group, they all sign in under the Health and Safety Act, and mayors are supposed to do that. Trackies are supposed to do that. I think if there's anything needs doing at all is the double check friends meetings to say, are they actually, where are they?
Yeah.
Who signed in for where? And that covers that all off.
Okay. And I think we'll leave it with officers to work through this and report back at the next meeting with the understanding that we expect there to be a good record of where things are at in terms of who's authorised, that their health and safety is in place, and that they understand our requirements. Okay, so I'm going to move on to, I actually do have a couple of questions which I've sort of would like to put to officers while they're here. One is regarding the steep bank by the club. Now, at a meeting, we were told that that had been planted. On a visit recently, I didn't see any planting. So I'm just wondering when that bank is going to be planted, because it's a very steep bank that is now not covered by vegetation, so it does have a risk of slippage, I'd imagine. So can I have a comment on that?
Yes, through the chair, we have started planting. Nauriaho Nursery started 2.5 weeks ago. And have planted quite a lot. However, when I went down just during the day to check, and I saw how much vegetation and growth, weeds and things had grown again. So we're actually going to get the contractor back in just to do some manual clearing before they do the next stage. But they've got about another 14,000 plants that still need to go in. And so they're working on the steep bank side and then the other area up above the junior pump track as well to kind of prevent some of the sand coming down and onto the junior pump track and skate park.
Okay, thank you. And then I have another question around the implementation of the bridge above the historic village. The budget was 40,000. We've spent 29,000 on the design so far, but it doesn't look like. But the comment is that the budget includes physical works. So how are we going to afford to build a bridge within the remaining budget?
Through the chair again. So at the moment, the budget's been discussed with Sue Davidson in terms of what this has come directly from Tim Manning, the project manager. So they're looking at the moment at what is needed in terms of making sure that that's completed. Consents are in at the moment for that as well. So we're just waiting on the outcome that they will get through, but it's just a process.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So to be decided.
Yes.
And then now I did send this in as a question. The transport assessment. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've seen a draft of it, but I'm not sure that we saw the final version of it. Or am I forgetting something?
I'm not sure that you did either. I've checked it's all done and we have been using it and giving it to community groups when they're looking at doing their transport plans. So I can resend it to you. There really wasn't any amendments on it from the draft that you saw, but if you'd like to have the final document, I can resend it.
I think for completeness and possibly send it to us, and for completeness, it probably should go on the next agenda just so this committee is seen to have seen it.
That's fine.
You see what I mean? And then, yeah, those were my questions. Thank you. So we'll just go into statements. I'm trying to remember who moved. I moved, so there you go. So yeah, I'm happy to see the report in that it's starting to drill into some level of sort of governance type detail that I'm interested in, around that level of risk and budget. I'd like to see. I'm hoping that as we sort of progress, we start to see some of these projects actually being completed and moving along. because there's some items on the budget, the capital works list, that have been on there for quite some time. So I'm hoping that we are going to move into some delivery on some of those. But the report is certainly taking a direction that I'm happy to see. So Councillor Delavaris Woodcock, you seconded this, so I believe you get the next statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You have heard my statement about the matters that I wanted to address, so I won't take up the committee's time, and that's fine.
Right. Okay. Does anyone else have a statement that they would like to make in this on this, which is the operations report? No. Okay. Well, in that case, back to me as the mover, and
Mayor Smith, Madam Chair.
oh, sorry, Mayor Smith. I missed your hand up. There you go. Yeah.
Kia ora. The simple thing from me is we seem to have a perennial problem about the business that the council is doing, directly actioning, and the business of everyone else for which council is ultimately responsible, and the separation of those two lines of work, if you like, in our heads and in our hearts and minds here about what's going on, because ultimately council is, as the landowner, is ultimately responsible and carries a level of risk, as we see quite accurately in the reports here. I guess the important piece of work is for us to get absolute clarity in an increasingly complex world as we're going forward, and it's less and less simple than it used to be in the past, with all of these players and what all the expectations of everybody is now, as we're shifting to licenses to occupy and so on. Those new legal documents are helping to tighten some of this, but I would say that the liaison through the Friends of Mangawhai Community Park Committee is really, really important, and going to be increasingly important as we all go forward. So I'd just like to make that statement, and at this point I'd also speaking of Mangawhai Community Park, and in that space, I'd like to acknowledge the great work of Jim Wintel as the chair of that group since forever, and for the decades and decades and decades and decades of leadership that you've provided here, Jim. Thank you for everything you have done and continue to do, and regarding the Friends of Mangawhai Community Park, and your key liaison between the council and the rest of the community there. I'm going to have to leave the council this meeting now in a couple of minutes, so I just wanted to acknowledge that now formally, if you like, from me. I'm looking forward to seeing you possibly before Christmas or the New Year. But you know, wishing you well for your future endeavours, and thanking you again for your extraordinary service to Mangawhai and the community of all of Kaipara regarding this very, very special place and taonga called Mangawhai Community Park. Your leadership's been really great and awesome, and if we had more community leaders such as yourself, the world would be a much better place, Jim. So thank you very much for all you've done for us. So thank you.
Yeah, we will, the remainder of us will have our say towards the end of the meeting on that, but I appreciate your input, Mayor. Okay, so we'll put this item to the vote now. All those in favour, please say aye and raise your hand. And against? Okay, carried. Good. Thank you. Okay, so we will move on to the next item now, which is the project update, project team update. Thank you, Mayor. We'll speak to you soon. And this will be Jenny presenting this. So can I have a mover to put this on the table, please?
I'll happy to move.
Thank you, Morris. And a seconder?
Yes,
Thank you, Councillor Wilson-Collins. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll hand over to you, Jenny, to take us through where we're at with your project team.
Kia ora, everyone. I take it that my report has been read, and we'll take questions as well. I just wanted to give you an update on the public toilets. That work has started. The earthwork side of it, and what I'll be doing is giving regular weekly updates to the Friends group and to the organisations who are directly there on site every day, just to let them know how things are going. But the aim is that the toilet will be installed and in before Christmas. However, it won't be operational, sorry, until after the new year, as the Historic Village group will be putting in the paving, and once the paving is in, then the final consents will be passed, and then we can open it. So yeah, long last, we've finally got our toilet in.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's big. It's quite a momentous occasion, actually. And in terms of the shared path, Councillor Curnow, you did have a question around that. We've currently got the resource consent in. There was an amendment in terms of the wetland, because we're taking the path slightly closer to one part of the wetland. So that's in at the moment. We've had the ecology report. All of that went fine. Just waiting for the consent to be, it is only an amendment, so it should be passed shortly. And the aim is that we start working, that the contractors will start working on the path on the 10th of January. They have a period where they're not able to work actually on Molesworth Drive. So the aim is that for the 7 days that they can't work on Molesworth Drive, they will be coming over and shifting a lot of the fill, which will be going into the park, so that the area that they've got as the laydown area will start to diminish, and you'll see that going into the actual shared path.
That's great.
Yeah. I think in terms of everything else, I have asked the project managers for the park, from your other question, Councillor Curnow, that they start to give us more regular updates of any changes or any predicted timeframes for us. So that will be something that I'll include in my report for next year.
That would be good.
The Bowl Bash have all their consenting requirements in now. So they've got their traffic management plan in principle. They've just got a couple of amendments to make in that, and they've also got the remainder of their consent applications in at the moment. So depending on the traffic light system as to whether they actually go ahead. Their aim would be, if we're still in the red, that they may do the competition with no patrons, and that they'll just live stream it. So that's one of their contingency plans as well, that they can keep it on the radar for people.
That would be interesting, managing the public wishing to attend anyway.
Yeah, they'd have to definitely manage it in a really strong way. Yeah. And I alluded before to the planting plan, so that we're just working with Ngā Uriaho at the moment to ensure that that continues to go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, open to questions now. Anyone? Just bear with me while I check first. Hands up. Yes, Councillor De Oliveira Woodcock. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so did the 4th of December market go ahead, or was that cancelled under the traffic light system?
Yes, no, they actually ran it the week before. The traffic light system came into place, so we did a very quick consent through for them, and they were able to run it, and it was really successful. I went on the day, and they ran it really well, and they were really pleased.
Thank you, Jenny. And my second question is about the Te Uriaho planting program. I was just wondering, is it usually the planting season is over by Labour weekend? Is it because, so talk about further planting, we're at risk of plant loss because of, unless they're watered. So I guess I'd just like to have some details on that planting plan, and whether or not the car park at Maz is and the replacement of the Phoenix palms is part of that plan or not?
Through the chair, definitely not the Phoenix palms, not on the agenda at the moment from this particular planting plan through the Ngāuiho. They're very small. A lot of them are reasonably small species, and we have been working with them last week and talking about how we manage watering them, ensuring that they've got enough to grow. But so far, they're growing really well, the ones that we have planted in the last month. Yeah.
It's been a great wet season.
It has.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So the Stella visual plan, is that where the details about amenity planting will be developed?
Yes. Yes. So that's Ngāuiho are working in accordance with the planting plan. So they know where to go, what species to plant and what areas.
Right. Thank you. No further questions.
Great. Any questions from anyone else? I'm looking for hands, so bear with me. No, I don't see any further questions. Okay, so we will move into statements. Now, Morris, I believe you moved this, so you get the first statement.
I don't, well, other than thanks for the report, I don't really have anything else to comment on, really.
Right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No worries at all. And Councillor Wilson-Collins as the seconder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just thanks to Jenny for the succinct report that gave a really good update, and it's just fantastic to see some of those projects coming to fruition. There's so much happening in that park all the time, and so the management is really neat to see the staff working really hard with all those community groups. So just thanks for keeping the report simple and to the point, so that we can move along with the important work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. I'll just add to that. The report is really helpful, and I think I've mentioned in the last reports that, yeah, that focus on delivery is really important. We need to start seeing, well, we already are, but we need to see ongoing delivery of what we've been talking about, some of which we've been talking about for a long time, and it's good to see the toilets landing, so to speak. So yeah, it's good to see that, and let's keep up the delivery focus. That's really important, because very shortly we'll be moving into reviewing the master plan, which is going to take some energy as well. So really need to keep that momentum going on delivery for now. Good. Any further statements that anyone would like to make? Bear with me while I scoot through everyone. No? Okay. All right. Well, we'll put this to the vote then. The vote being that we note the project team update. All those in favour?
Aye.
And against?
Aye.
Sorry, Morris, are you voting for or against?
For.
For. Great. Okay. Sorry, your video link was just a little delayed there. Okay. In that case, that vote is carried, and so now we just before we close the meeting, we need to note one more thing, and that is the resignation of Jim Wintel, who has been involved with the community park for a long time. The community park master plan, he was involved with that. But Jim's involvement in making Mangawhai a better place goes back way beyond that. And anyone who's been to the museum will know how far back that goes. And I'm sure it goes beyond that as well. We wouldn't have a beautiful estuary if it weren't for people like Jim. So I want to personally thank Jim for the efforts that you've put into making Mangawhai a better place and the place that it is today, and also for your good, robust friendship along the way as we've bandied ideas around, and for chairing the Friends group for the last 6 or more years, 7 years. Your leadership in Mangawhai is exemplary, and I personally thank you for it. I'm going to open it up for anyone else to make a statement if they'd like to, and then we'll give Jim a right of reply. Councillor De Lavaris Woodcock.
Thank you, Jim. You've taught me a lot. I admire your steadfastness, and while you probably noticed I have strong opinions, I've admired how you are such a gentleman and so calm, and you obviously get things done that you want, which is great. And of course, Mangawhai is a better place for you. So congratulations for your many years of service, and I hope you have a good, more of a sort of holiday-ish time. You absolutely deserve it. So golf or whatever it is, pottering in the garden, I don't know. But thank you. And yes, that's it for me.
Kia ora. Anyone else? Morris, your hand is waving.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, I'm sitting down because I heard you were retiring, right? And I don't for 1 minute believe that. So I expect to see a few more ventures with your name to the fore. But thank you very much for all you've done for Mangawhai. And it's been a pleasure being on this committee with you for a few years. Always enjoy your company. And I'll catch up with you. All the best, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kia ora. And Councillor Wilson-Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim, we haven't had much time to get to know each other. I'm the newbie, and now you're departing for fairer pastures, I guess. But I have appreciated getting to know you these past few years, and the tour of the historic village, impromptu tour that we got, will always be a nice little memory. So thank you so much for your efforts and all your work. I mean, your Mangawhai royalty, as far as I can make out, and the community is very appreciative, I'm sure, of having you on their side. So I look forward to hearing more about what you're up to, because I agree with Morris. It's very hard to believe that you're actually retiring. So best of luck, eh?
Yeah.
And over to you, Jim. Right of reply.
Oh, could I just?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to, but yeah, I'd just like to say also, Jim, thank you so much for just the work that we've done in the last couple of years together. Your banter, your humour, you're just a great guy to work with. I really, really enjoy it, and I really enjoyed the close work that we had with the dairying and making that come to fruition for you. And like Morris said, I don't think you've gone. I think you've got another couple more projects that we'll be working on together, even if it's just not in the chair role. But yeah, have a rest at the same time. Thank you.
Anyone else at this point?
Yeah, I'd like to jump in.
Darlene? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jim. You've taught me so much over the years, and like everyone's been saying, we've had some good, robust discussions as well, and a couple of nice coffees down at the historic village and the museum and stuff. And really do appreciate everything you've done for myself, to teach me as well, and for the community too. And I'm just wondering, Tracy, is there any way that we can capture this in the minutes around the thanks and appreciation for?
Through the chair, there will be a secretarial note.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, so any other comments to Jim before we give him the right to reply? No, good. All right, Jim, go for it.
Well, first of all, Morris has got a party, right? I'm retiring from the governing body meeting, but my heart's been in the Mangawhai Park for over 40 years now. one of the regrets I've made is I never learned to read and write. I think I should have written everything down that I've done. Back in 1963, I was the sexton of digging graves at the Mangawhai Cemetery. From there, I carried on with various projects right through until the park. 1978 was when we bought the park off the Cullen brothers. And looking back on some of my records, there was David Fagan, who was the chair of the Otawatia County Council. There was myself. There was a chap called John Cartwright. He was Lands and Survey Department. And that was before Department of Conservation had even got off the ground. And we started to look, firstly as a golf course, then secondly, Greenview Heights was going to be the sound film, and where we are now in what we might from the down the road to the museum. That was always on our radar to do things with that. So various committees came along and they fell off the radar. And a lot of it was the same old story, no funds to do anything. And, you know, that goes on and it still goes on today. And I've enjoyed the total journey with all you people here today, and thank you for that. And I'm still going to be around. They haven't hit me on the head yet. The signs aren't very good, but I'm still going to try and box on. And I believe that my last day, I'll be still working within the park doing this. One thing I'd like to put in just right now is that at the end of this week, we are finishing a backroom museum for a display for the dairying. And it's going to be on display. Museum thinks it might go for 5 months. I'm giving it 3. I think I'm sick of it. So I'm still going to stay chair of trustees of the dairy, trustee of the historic village. I'll still be around. And I like Mangawhai, and I think I've given it my fair shot. And yeah, Erin, I'm looking forward to a wine with our luncheon. You know, I thought today was going to be out the door and along to the Frog and Kiwi and see who's the last man standing. Unfortunately, put in the road. The offer's still there, don't be assured. But I'm going to be around. I'll be around at the museum. I do a lot of in-house stuff. I'm starting another project with the harbour restoration, bringing the people that weren't on the original Big Dig. We're making videos and bringing them in, and that's this week. So I've still got a busy schedule ahead of me. And I hope you'll all be able to enjoy these things as they come to fruition. But thank you for being allowed to join you, be part of your group. Our group, it's all our group. Mangawhai is ours. It doesn't belong to anyone else. In particular, it's everyone's. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Yeah, thank you from all of us. Okay.
I can have the last say because I can turn you off.
Okay, well, on that note, I'll draw the meeting to a close. And with the karakia. Kia tauna manakitanga a te mea ngaro, ki runga ki tēnā o tātou, kia mahia te hua kihi, kia tui, te kupu, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori, tihei moriora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Okay, everyone, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
That brings our meeting to a close, and I wish everyone a good break. We all